He brought donuts, like nothing ever happened, but the walls remembered everything. What happens when the person who broke you walks back in like he owns the place? You're about to hear what no one else did. The silence, the pressure, the things that didn't leave bruises, but stayed anyway. He smiled. Dad said nothing, and I knew this wasn't the beginning. This was the reckoning. Thank you for being here. Have you ever carried something no one asked about? Say something below, even something small, a word, a city, a time. And if you'd like more stories like this, quiet but powerful, subscribe. You're being dramatic, Delia. He's your brother. That's what Aunt Ruth said when I called her. She said it in the same voice she used at Mom's funeral when she told me not to make a scene. I didn't make a scene then. I'm not making one now. But I'm not being dramatic. He's back. Tom. It started this morning. The sound of tires on gravel. I was making coffee when I heard it. That sound. The one that always makes my chest tighten like I've swallowed a rubber band. I didn't look through the blinds. I didn't have to. I heard his laugh. It's deeper now, more hoarse. But underneath, it's the same. That low, casual cruelty. The kind of sound you don't forget, even if you bury it under 40 years of silence. Dad didn't move from his chair. He just blinked, slow and blank, like a screensaver. He doesn't talk much these days. He hasn't, really, since the stroke. But I saw it in his jaw, a twitch, a shift. He knew. Tom walked in with a box of donuts and 2 crumpled grocery bags, like a hero returning from war. Delia, he said like it was a normal Tuesday. I nodded. I said nothing. He kissed Dad on the head. Look who's still kicking, huh? Dad blinked again. Tom dumped his bags on the kitchen table and grabbed the donut box like he owned the place. You still make that weird decaf stuff? I said nothing. He opened the fridge. Wow, you still label your leftovers like a librarian. Meatloaf, Wednesday, 3 p.m. Jesus. He laughed again. That sound, like something crawling under my skin. He was in this house again, the house that once knew things, and I could feel the walls listening, holding their breath. Around noon, he walked into the back room, the one I keep locked. It wasn't locked. I must have forgotten. No, I never forget. I heard the door creak. I walked down the hall slowly, my hand on the frame. He was standing there, looking at the wall with all the old photos. Me, Mom, even him, back when we were kids. He turned. You kept all this up? I looked at him, at his mouth, the scar by his left eye. I thought, that eye never cried. Not once. Not for what he did. Not for who he broke. Not for who he watched break me. He walked out like it meant nothing. Left the door open, like I didn't deserve a closed door anymore. Like I never did. That night, I didn't sleep. I listened. There's a kind of breathing a house does, when it settles. But that night, it didn't settle. It held itself, tense, like me. In the dark, I remembered a drawer, bottom of Mom's old desk, locked for years. I hadn't opened it since 2002. I found the key 2 months ago and never used it. I got up, bare feet, quiet. Unlocked it. Inside, an envelope. Yellowed. Faded. My name in her hand. Delia. For later. I didn't open it. Not yet. I just held it. Because something in me said, later is now. She still lives here? What a joke. Voicemail. Accidentally played over Bluetooth as she wiped down the counter. I dropped the rag. It made a soft sound. Wet cotton slapping linoleum. But inside me, something shattered like glass. I didn't move. The voice played again. Tinny, amused, easy. She still lives here? What a joke. Tom, talking to someone, and laughing. The phone had synced to the speaker, automatically. Bluetooth, like some kind of traitor. It betrayed him, too. I sat down, slowly. The chair squeaked beneath me. I hadn't meant to listen, but I also hadn't meant to survive. And yet, here I was. I hit repeat, not to hurt myself, to memorize. Later that day, I made him dinner. Pasta. Simple. He ate like nothing happened. Told some story about an ex-wife, a dog, a camper that caught fire. I nodded at the right places. That's what it had always been, nodding at the right places, so no one would hear the wrong things inside me. After dinner, I went up to the attic. Not for any reason, not at first, just walked. The air was thick, dusty, dry in my throat. I opened a box that hadn't been touched in years. Inside, my sketchbook from 1975. I opened it with fingers that didn't feel like mine. Page after page of stairs, corners, closed doors, figures and shadows. One page just said, "Do not speak." I flipped it shut, heart pounding. Back then, I thought drawing was safer than talking. Now I'm not sure anything was. That night, I didn't sleep again. The house didn't either. Every board creaked. The wind whispered things it shouldn't have known. Around 3 a.m., I heard his door open. A low voice. Just a few words. Not to me. To someone on the phone. She's always been off, you know? Like, fragile. Might be time to do something about it. My breath froze. So did my body. I didn't move. He wanted to erase me again, but this time, I heard it coming. The next morning, I labeled my leftovers, Chicken, Tuesday, 2 p.m., like I always do. Then I placed a small silver voice recorder behind the bread box, just in case the walls stopped listening. "You always had such imagination, Delia," he said, standing in the hallway with jam on his thumb, like we were still 8 and 10. I didn't answer. What do you say to that? What does a ghost say to the one who made her? That morning, I sat in the garden. I needed air. I needed to smell something other than the inside of my mouth. Lilacs. They're blooming early this year. Funny. They only bloom when the ground has been through enough cold to deserve them. I sat still for almost an hour. Even the birds seemed careful. Then I saw it. An envelope slipped under my back door. Not postmarked, not sealed. Inside, a page. No signature. We remember what you forgot. Even when you're quiet about it, don't let him write your ending again. No name, just ink, and a sentence I didn't know I needed. That night, I opened the envelope from Mom, the one from the drawer. Delia, for later. Inside, one photo, us, me, Tom, and Dad, 4th of July, 1972. I was 10. Tom was 12. I was smiling, but my hands were in fists. Mom had written on the back, "One day you'll tell the truth, whether you want to or not." Flashback, not a memory, a return. I'm lying on the old couch in the den, TV humming, popcorn bowl between us, Tom beside me, Mom upstairs, Dad at work. He leans in and whispers something I don't want to remember, and I don't. I just remember freezing. I've never moved that fast or that slowly again. Back in the present, I search the old sewing basket. At the bottom, my childhood diary, the one with the broken lock. Every page is blank, except one. He said it wouldn't count if no one saw, so I made sure no one ever did. The next day, I found my sketchbook from senior year. There's a picture, not of a person, of a hallway, narrow, warped, with doors that tilt in. I'd written, "This is where I disappear when he walks in the room." That night, he asked me if I was okay. His voice, soft, fake, but I answered, "I'm fine. I'm just remembering all the things I didn't." And he smiled, like he won. We might need to get her evaluated. His voice muffled through the wall, measured like a nurse's hand on a wrist. I was in the hallway when he said it, not even hiding, just standing there, holding a folded towel. He was on the phone in the living room, door cracked, heat humming, and that soft, coaxing tone he used when he wanted something from people who didn't know what he was. "She's not dangerous, just unwell. You know, it's been hard on her. The house, the past. She talks to herself sometimes." Silence. Then, "Yeah, Early signs, maybe. If we start the paperwork now, it'll be easier when the time comes. I backed away before I remembered how to walk, towel still in my hands. I went to the laundry room, sat on the washer, and stared at the floor until I couldn't feel my feet. Later, I Googled how to fight guardianship, then deleted the history, then wrote it all out in a notebook, in pen. At dinner, he was warm, charismatic. Told Dad a joke, though Dad didn't laugh. Told me I looked more rested. I smiled and said thank you. That's how women lose. Not with screams, with manners. That night, I checked the mailbox. Inside, an envelope with my name, handwritten. Inside, copies of property forms, shared interest, shared responsibility, and a sticky note. Let's talk about options, okay? Just thinking long term. Love tea. So I made tea, and for the first time in decades, I called a lawyer. Delia Marks, I said. I think my brother is trying to take my house, and maybe my name. The woman on the other end had a voice like dry leaves. She listened. She didn't interrupt. When I finished, there was a pause. Then, document everything, every word, every paper, every breath. So I did. I made 3 copies of the voicemail. I scanned the old photo from '72. I started a timeline, not for revenge, for clarity. Because I remembered something Mom once said, years before she stopped saying anything at all. Don't let him bury you twice. We need to get ahead of this. She might be talking to someone. Voicemail she wasn't supposed to hear. Again. It played while I was watering the plants. The speaker caught it. Bluetooth again. This time, I didn't flinch. I just let it echo. He was calling a woman. Someone with a clipped tone and bureaucratic patience. We think it's starting to escalate. She's isolated, keeps notes, stares at the walls, says weird things. We're worried. We. That's what he said. Like it wasn't just him. Like the house itself was against me. Later, I cleaned the hallway closet. I don't know why. Maybe to feel like I still owned something here. Behind the linens, in the far back corner, I found it. A folder. Manila. Clean. Hidden. Inside, a pre-filled power of attorney form, printouts from a mental health site, a list of local assisted living placement options, and my birth certificate. He was preparing, not reacting, preparing. I sat on the floor, folder open on my knees, hand over my mouth, and thought, he came here to finish what he started, legally. That night, I didn't label the leftovers. I sat in the garage, lights off, recorder on, just listening to my own breath, trying to remember its rhythm before it got rewritten. Flashback, 1978, Mom's birthday, cake in the kitchen, candles lit. Tom dropped his fork. I bent to pick it up. Under the table, he grabbed my wrist, tight, just once. No words, just that small grip, and a smile when I looked up. No one saw it, but it's the first time I disappeared from a room I was still in, back to now. I started keeping 2 notebooks, one for the lawyer, one for me. In mine, I wrote this. He learned that if you act calm while destroying someone, you get away with it longer. At 2:14 a.m., I went to the kitchen, opened the drawer with old batteries and broken pens. Underneath, I found the Post-it Mom had once stuck to the fridge, faded, barely legible. Your voice is not noise. Use it. I taped it to the inside of my closet door. Some places are only safe in the dark. I think you should meet someone, he said. She helps with transitional conversations, like I was furniture being prepped for resale. He said it over breakfast. Scrambled eggs, burnt toast, Dad staring at the TV. Tom's voice calm, buttering both toast and language. She's not a therapist, more of a support advocate, just to help you talk through things, maybe make a plan. I didn't answer, because when you answer predators in polite tones, they think you've agreed. That afternoon, I searched the old desk in the sunroom, looking for my insurance card. Instead, I found it, a small blue USB drive, labeled in faint Sharpie, 2001D. I held it like it might explode, put it in the laptop with hands that trembled. Inside, one file, an audio recording, 22 minutes, dated October 11th, 2001. I hit play. A voice I hadn't heard in years. Dad. My father. Just sit, don't argue. He sounds impatient. Then, Tom's voice. Younger, faster, still arrogant. She'll ruin it all. If she talks, it's over. Dad again. She won't talk. She knows what happens when she does. Then silence. Then a chair scrape. Then, let her write her poems. It's not evidence. What if she shows someone? Then we discredit her. You know how this works. I stopped the file. I couldn't breathe. Not from panic. From recognition. They rehearsed this. Years before I ever opened my mouth, they rehearsed my silence. Flashback. A day I'd buried. Me, 16, crying into the bathroom rug. Mom outside the door. She doesn't knock. She just says, "Whatever happened, let's not break the family over it." That was the first time I learned the word complicity. I just didn't know how to spell it yet. Back in the present, I copied the USB to 3 places, printed a transcript. Then I did something I hadn't done in decades. I called my cousin, Nora. She answered on the second ring. Delia? Her voice, older, warmer, real, like a quilt that smells like truth. I said, "I need someone to believe me before I show the world." And she said, "I've been waiting for you to call since 1983. That night, I placed the USB in a sealed envelope, wrote on the front, "If anything happens to me, play this on local news." I slid it into the old Bible by the fireplace, the one no one ever opens. Not even God wants to know what's in that book anymore. "There's a girl here to see you," Tom called from the hallway. "Says she's your niece. Should I let her in?" He said it like it was a prank. I froze, not because I was afraid of her, but because I was afraid of what she might not know, or worse, what she did. She stepped into the kitchen 5 minutes later, 18, maybe 19, hair like her mother's, eyes like her father's, but softer. She smiled, awkward, nervous. "Hi, I'm Ella. I think we're related. You probably don't want to see me, but I've been reading." She reached into her coat and pulled out a small journal. It wasn't mine. It was hers. Inside, notes, quotes, screenshots from a blog I wrote under a pseudonym 2 years ago, the one titled "The House with No Witnesses." She whispered, "I thought it was fiction, but then I read between the lines." I made tea. We didn't speak much, just sat, like 2 women watching a storm that hadn't started yet. Then she said, "He scares me too." The room shifted. The house exhaled, and something inside me cracked, not from pain, but from release. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't know." And I said, "You're the first person with his last name who said that to me." She reached into her bag again, pulled out a voice recorder. "I bought this, in case you wanted to record something. Real." I took it. My hands shook, not from fear, from remembering what it feels like to be seen. Flashback, 1995, a family cookout. Ella's mother, Tom's second wife, was pregnant. Tom was bragging about cleaning up his past. I remember sitting in the shade, wondering if anyone noticed that I never swam, never laughed, never asked questions. No one did, until now. That night, Ella left quietly. No hugs, no promises. Just a note. "I believe you. I'm not brave yet, but I will be." I slid the recorder into my nightstand, turned off the light, and whispered into the dark. One by one, the silence is breaking itself. "This is just a wellness check," the woman said, stepping into the living room. "Mind if we talk?" Her name was Meredith. She had a clipboard and a smile that didn't blink. Tom stood behind her, arms crossed but polite. So polite it made the skin on my arms itch. "Just routine," he said. "She's been overwhelmed. It happens." I sat on the edge of the couch, Not slouched, not stiff, neutral. Like I'd practiced in mirrors for years. Meredith asked questions in that soft, hovering tone, like cotton around a needle. Do you sleep well, Delia? Any recent stressors in your life? Have you been in touch with any mental health professionals lately? I answered calmly, evenly, like a woman who didn't own a USB drive with a family conspiracy on it, like a woman who hadn't started recording the air around her just in case. Flashback, 2004, a church secretary, friendly, warm, told me, you should pray for him. Anger turns to illness if you hold it too long. I held it anyway, and yes, it did become illness, but not mine. Back to now. Meredith flipped a page on her clipboard. Your brother tells me you've been having trouble organizing your thoughts. I smiled. He's always been imaginative. She blinked. Finally. I'm fine, I said, but I understand how it might benefit someone else if I weren't. Pause. Then, excuse me? It's fine, I repeated. That's how you say I know what you're doing without raising your voice. After she left, Tom made soup, offered me some. I declined. He leaned against the counter and said, You know, it doesn't have to be like this. I said nothing. He smiled. The kind of smile that only works on people who've never heard a scream through a closed door. That night, I made another list, titled it, Places I've Disappeared Inside This House. The hallway where I pretended to forget. The stairs where I stopped breathing. The corner of the guest room closet. The attic with the box of erased faces. The voice in me I pressed mute on 47 years ago. At the bottom, I wrote, He wants to make the list permanent. Then I crossed it out and wrote, He can't. These sketches, the reporter said, holding one up, they're not just art, are they? I didn't answer right away, because how do you explain to someone that the hallway they're pointing at, the one drawn in shaky pencil with slanted walls and no doors, wasn't imagined? It was measured. His name was Julian, local journalist, early 30s, kind eyes, pen that clicked when he was nervous. Ella had sent him, said she trusted him. I didn't. Not yet. But he sat at my kitchen table, surrounded by decades of paper, diaries with one entry, drawings with no people, photos with only corners. I know this looks scattered, I told him. It's not. He nodded. Then he picked up the sketch of the second-floor hallway, the one with the heavy shadow in the middle, the one I drew at 15, from memory. You wrote here, This is where I stopped being a girl. What does that mean? I looked at the drawing, at the shadow, and said, It means I never walked down that hallway alone again. Flashback, 1980, 3 days after Mom caught me burning a journal. She said, Don't give people reasons to call you crazy. Then handed me a new sketchbook. Draw it out, she said, but don't say a word. So I did. Page after page, silence in graphite. Julian held up another, a bedroom, mine, empty, no furniture, just words scrawled on the walls. Tell someone, they won't believe you. He looked up at me. You were trying to leave proof. Not a question, a realization. I exhaled. Didn't know I'd been holding breath for 20 years. I didn't want justice, I said. I wanted someone to see it before it faded. He asked to record an interview. I hesitated, then nodded. He pressed Arik, and I said, My name is Delia Marks. I am not unstable. I am not confused. And this house remembers what your court didn't. After he left, I stood at the top of the stairs, looked down that hallway, still dark, still narrow, and whispered, I walked it, alone. But I'm not alone anymore. You're embarrassing yourself, Tom said, holding the news article. You sound insane. He said it like it was a gift, like I should thank him for the warning. Julian's article ran on page 6 of the Sunday insert. Nothing dramatic, just local artist explores trauma through architecture. No names, no accusations, just sketches. Truth in grayscale. Tom saw it on the counter. Didn't speak at first. Then, "You actually think anyone's going to care about your, what, trauma doodles?" I didn't answer. Because some men confuse silence with surrender. Let them. Later, when he went for groceries, I opened the attic. First time in years. Boxes. Dust. The heat heavy like breath on the back of your neck. I found the flat portfolio under the Christmas lights. Inside, the one. The painting I made when I was 17, the one I wrapped in newspaper and hid. Because even I was afraid of it. A staircase, a shadow, a girl. Small, half erased. But the most terrifying part was this. There was no door. Only walls that bled at the edges. Flashback, senior year. Art teacher asked me what it meant. I said, "I got the angles wrong." He said, "No, you got them perfect. That's what scares me." Back in the present, I placed the painting on the easel in the guest room, sat across from it, stared, and whispered, "You don't scare me anymore. You were the truth, and I buried you. I'm sorry." The next morning, Tom knocked once, opened the door without waiting, saw the painting, paused. "What is that?" "Memory. Looks like a threat. Only to the guilty." He stared at me for a beat too long, then turned and left, and that's when I realized, for the first time in this house, he didn't feel taller than me anymore. I framed the painting, named it "Where No Girl Should Vanish," and packed it for the exhibit, because this time my voice had shadows too, and they would hang on white walls where everyone could see. "This isn't healing, Delia," he says. "This is revenge." And I say, "Then stop calling it family." His voice is louder now, sharper. He doesn't try to sugar it anymore. The sweetness rotted weeks ago. He throws the article on the table, flips it open with 2 fingers like it offends him. "You said no names, but they'll connect the dots. You want to shame me? Fine, just say it." I sip my tea. "I'm not here to name you, Tom. I'm here to name me. Out loud. Finally." He circles me like I'm about to confess to a crime, not speak about one. "You sound paranoid. You sound afraid." "Of what?" "Being seen." He slams a chair into the table. Dad doesn't flinch. Neither do I. "You can't rewrite history, Delia." "No," I say, "but I can stop letting you ghostwrite mine." That night, I place locks on my room, not to keep him out, to remind myself that I can. I find Ella's recorder. Turn it on. Let it run while I read old journal entries into it. My voice cracks but doesn't break. Flashback. The day after it first happened. I tried to tell Mom. She said, "You've always been dramatic, Delia." I asked if she remembered my 9th birthday, how I cried and wouldn't say why. She said, "No one likes a girl who makes things ugly." Back to now. Tom passes me in the hall, says nothing, but too quiet. That kind of quiet that isn't empty. It's loaded. I check the locks again, then write a new list, titled, "What He Said, What He Meant." "You're confused. You remember too well. It's in the past. It's not buried deep enough. I forgive you. I'm still in control. I love you. Don't talk." The last line I write in red. If silence was loyalty, I'd be a patriot. But now I'm a survivor. A knock at the door. An old man, badge in hand. "I think I owe you something, Miss Marks." He smelled like dust in winter, hair white, shirt pressed, but his eyes heavy. "Name's Vernon Lake. I was a sheriff's deputy here, back in '84. He held a file folder, thick, brown at the corners, like it had waited to be opened all its life. I was told not to write a report back then, told it was family business. I listened. I shouldn't have. We sat on the porch. He didn't drink the water I offered. He placed the folder in my lap. Inside, notes from a neighbor's call in 1983, a written statement, never filed, from a school nurse, a copy of a page torn from my high school journal. "I took this," he said, "copied it, Because I didn't trust myself to remember your handwriting. Flashback. That day. I'd written, if I disappear, it's not an accident. I never knew the page had gone missing. Until now. I knew something was wrong, Vernon said, but your dad, he came in personally, said you were having episodes, said it'd be cruel to drag the boy into it. Silence. Not angry, not sad, just full. Then he said, I can't undo it, but if you go public now, you'll need this. He slid a flash drive across the table. I digitized everything. I don't want it in my house anymore. I asked him, why now? He looked past me, toward the fields, because you looked me in the eyes and didn't flinch, and I couldn't do that to a single woman in 1984. Maybe now's my chance to finally face one. He stood, didn't ask for forgiveness, which is how I knew he actually meant it. That night, I opened the files, read every page, cried once, not from pain, from confirmation, because all these years I wondered if I'd imagined it all, and now the world had a copy of what I tried to carry alone. Are you still going through with the show? Ella texts. Even after everything? I answer, especially after everything. The hearing was set for Thursday. I canceled it Tuesday morning. My lawyer didn't argue. She just said, then let your evidence hang in better lighting. I called the gallery myself. Still on, I said. They offered me the back room. Quiet. Away from the food and wine. Perfect. The flyer said, Marks, memory, silent architecture. No faces, no accusations, just space, and walls that leaned too close. Tom didn't speak to me for 2 days. Then he knocked on my door. I opened it. You win, he said. Enjoy your little trauma circus. I looked him in the face. It's not a circus, Tom. It's a museum. The only thing missing is the do not touch sign. That night, I packed each piece like bone, wrapped, numbered. I left one sketch out, the one from 1974, the hallway with no windows, the girl halfway gone. I framed it in black, wrote one line under it. I was not erased. I was overwritten. Now I've restored the original. Flashback. The courtroom in my mind. All the versions of me sitting in the back row. 13, 16, 25, 42, each of them waiting. This time I walked in, not as a witness, as the architect. That evening, Ella helped hang the last frame. She looked at one with her father's silhouette, vague but heavy. You didn't draw his face, she said. He doesn't deserve to be remembered that clearly, I said. When we were done, I turned off the lights, looked at the room one more time. All those silent screams. Finally framed. This wasn't closure. This was proof of survival, and it had texture. Opening night. 3 women stood in front of the same drawing. One of them whispered, "Thank you for saying what I never could." I arrived 10 minutes before the doors opened. Not early, ready. The gallery was warm, dim, soft music, wine glasses clinking like distant bells. But no one looked at the food. They looked at the walls. The first piece, entry, a blank hallway. The caption read, "Some houses open, others consume." People moved slowly, almost reverently, like they were afraid to make noise near grief. And maybe they were. A woman in her 60s stood in front of room 2. She touched her cheek, not noticing the tear. Her daughter whispered, "Is this what it was like?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Ella hovered near the far wall, silent, alert. A niece, a witness, a quiet revolution in jeans and lip balm. She squeezed my hand once, didn't let go until a man in a beige coat asked, "Are you the artist?" I nodded. "This one," he said, pointing at the piece titled, "Where I Went When I Wasn't Allowed to Leave." "This one is hard." I said, "It's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be true." Flashback. Age 21. First time I ever tried to tell a boyfriend. He said, "Wow, that's heavy. You should talk to someone." Then he changed the subject. To jazz. Back to now. A girl, maybe 17, stood in front of staircase without exit. She didn't say a word, but when she walked away, I saw the small scratch on her wrist, old, thin, too precise to be random. She left with her head higher than when she came in. That was enough. People left in waves. No applause, no speeches, just quiet nods, and eyes that avoided her brother's name, but not her truth. Later, as I locked the door, Julian appeared, hands in coat pockets. "You did it," he said. "No screaming, no trial, just exposure." "Sunlight," I said. "It bleaches blood better than bleach." That night, I didn't lock my door. I slept with the recorder off, and for the first time in 40 years, I didn't dream of stairs, a plain envelope, no name, no stamp. Inside, a single line. "You ruined everything. You won." I read it once, then again, then out loud. "You ruined everything. You won." No signature, but I didn't need one. The cadence was familiar, like a bruise that knew where to land. I stood on the front porch, sun low, hands steady, lit a match, held the paper until the fire kissed my fingers. It curled into ash the same way I used to curl under my own guilt, quiet, crisp. "You think this is about winning?" "No, Tom. This is about surviving. Out loud." Dad passed a week later, peaceful, or at least still. He never said anything. Maybe he couldn't. Maybe he chose not to. Either way, I didn't bury silence with him. I let it stay dead. I signed the house over to myself officially, stamped, filed, mine. The kitchen feels lighter now, like grief left the cabinets. Ella visits on Sundays. She brings muffins. She talks more now, laughs with a question mark in her voice, like she's testing what joy feels like. Julian's article went national. People wrote, letters, emails, some angry, most trembling. "Your sketch looked like my bedroom." "You made me remember what I thought was gone." "I showed your drawing to my therapist." I didn't answer all of them, but I kept every word. The recorder sits on my nightstand. I don't use it much anymore, but I leave it there, as a promise. Flashback, not a scene, just an image. Me, age 12, pressing my hand to the wall, feeling it breathe back, thinking, maybe if I stay still enough, I'll disappear. Now, at 65, I press that same hand to the same wall, and it's solid. Because I'm solid. He lived inside my story for too long. Now I live in it. Fully. Freely. Finally. If you're still here and this story spoke to you, consider subscribing to the channel so you won't miss the next one.